Okay.
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to see you all again. I apologize I have missed the last couple of meetings for various reasons. But obviously a lot of change going on with the new administration and within Congress as well. As most of you know, the senator stepped back as leader, but he does have new committee assignments that I wanted to share if you all are not aware. He is the new Senate Rules Committee Chair. And he is also the chair of the subcommittee appropriations on defense. And then also just recently was named the chairman of one of the subcommittees within the Senate Agriculture Committee. So I know he's looking forward to those new roles over the next 2 years. The Senate continues to process nominations. Of course, that has taken up the bulk of the time here in the new Congress as they continue that process. There's, like I said, a lot of changes. If anyone has any questions, I know I've heard from several of you on various programs over the last few weeks. Please continue to reach out if you have any questions. We'll see what we can try to get an answer for. But always great to be here. Appreciate working with all of you. Have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. Okay, and we have Austin Weatherington from Congressman Comer's office joining us by Zoom.
Yeah, it's great to join everyone virtually, and I hope you all can hear me, and I hope everyone had a great Super Bowl weekend. A few things just wanted to make note of legislative-wise. The House is back in session this week, and reconciliation bill negotiations are still ongoing. Congressman Comer is hoping for the final bill or bills to unleash America's energy independence, extend the Tax Cuts and Job Act, increase funding for border security, and of course, rein in wasteful government spending. Congressman Comer signed on in support of the disaster declaration that was submitted by the governor for the snow and ice storms in January. There are several Pennyroyal counties included in this list for public assistance, but we will let the communities know when we hear a decision from FEMA. And lastly, one of Congressman Comer's top priorities each year is to be as accessible and helpful as possible. In 2024, the Congressman's office connected with over 23,000 constituents across the 1st District of Kentucky, and we were able to serve 3,127 constituents through casework. So we're extremely happy and excited about those numbers, of course. With that being said, if our office can ever be of help with an issue with casework or a community that needs a letter of support for a federal grant, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself. And thank you all again.
Hey, Austin, is the congressman, is he still planning to be at West Kentucky Thank You Night on Thursday?
Yes, as of now, he's planning on making an appearance right after the governor speaks. But of course, that's the change. If the schedule changes with House votes or anything like that, that may come up. But as of right now, yes, he is planning on being there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Austin. Next, we have State Representative Walker Thomas.
I'll just stand right here because it's brief. We've already used 8 days of our 30-day session, so we got about 20 left with 2 saved for veto override. Bills are starting to move a little bit. I noticed the committees are all meeting this week, so hopefully things will kind of get going and we'll pass up. There's already 525, 530 bills already filed, so we'll see how many get through. It's just short session. Yeah, we're supposed to not pass a whole lot. We're supposed to just fix what we broke last time, but I'm not sure that's happening. So we'll see.
Thank you. And next we have Alex Cottle with Governor Beshear's office.
Good afternoon, everybody. Great to be back with you today. Martha James sends her regards. Appreciate her covering for me last month. Did have a few good news announcements to share. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, some of you all saw last week, they announced their recent bridge replacement awards. And Lyon County was a recipient of one of those for $250,000. So we appreciate Representative Thomas and the governor and others working on that new program last year. If you haven't heard, Doug Taylor with Rural Roads and Municipal Aid has retired. Of course, he's from Trigg County right here in the Penny Royale. So be sure to reach out to Doug if you haven't already and send him a note of congratulations. And wish him well in his retirement. He served state government for over 30 years in transportation and the park system as well. We're going to miss Doug for sure. Also, the governor announced some awards for the Land and Water Conservation Fund and recreational trails programs for our parks that we're referring on to the federal government for approval for funding, including for Fredonia, Hopkins County, Arlington, Dawson Springs, Morton's Gap, and Elkton, which is almost $600,000 for land and water funds coming back to the PeADD. All the PeADD projects were approved that were submitted. So kudos to Jason and Amy and y'all staff putting together great applications. And then for the recreational trails program, we have 117,000 for Christian County, 150,000 for Madisonville, and 176,000 for Arlington coming back through the recreational trails program. So congratulations to those cities and counties as well. The governor will be at West Kentucky Thank You Night on Thursday about 5 o'clock Eastern time. So we hope to see y'all there. If you're able to attend, we'd love to chat with you. And for our mayors and judges, the next Zoom call with the governor will be this Wednesday morning, 8:30 a.m. Central Time, Wednesday, February 12th. If you have not received that link in your email for some reason, let me know. We'd be happy to forward that on to you and hope you can sit in and listen to the governor's report on that. For our county officials, we'd love for you to come to one of our DLG county budget workshops. There's not one at the PeADD this year, but there will be one in Mayfield on the 25th. Bowling Green on the 26th, and then in Owensboro on the 27th. Those start at 9 a.m. and run till about noon. So if you haven't registered and you're a county official, we'd love to have you for that. Please feel free to invite your magistrates, treasurers, any other county folks. And with that, I think that's all I have. Thank you all.
Thank you. And next we have Jason Hassert with Senator Randall's office.
Good timing.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here for Senator Paul today. The senator is looking forward to having more secretary nominations come up in the Senate this week. One will be Robert Kennedy. And another issue that the senator is watching, I know a lot of everyone in this room I know is concerned about President Trump's putting holds on government funding. And unfortunately, we really don't know any more about it than you at this time, but the senator is watching it very closely. I feel like I'm a broken record every time I come to these meetings. Since 2010, Senator Paul has talked about balancing the budget, reining in government spending. You know, we talk about studies for $5 million on, quail and cocaine and their mating habits. So there's definitely places we need to rein in the government spending, because Senator Paul's greatest fear is that someday we won't be able to write a check out of it. And when we talk about $5 million for a peculiar study, that's $5 million for a water project in White Plains or repaving the Fort Campbell runways. So he really does want to see that spending reined in. That being said, there's also a lot of important government funding that needs to take place. So I would just say that if there's anything that you're seeing that you're impacted here in Grad, please give me a call. Senator Paul is happy to let the administration know about it. I had a call from a judge in the Grad area last week that they have grants for expanding Wi-Fi access, and he was afraid that if that funding stopped, they would lose all the workers. They'd move on to another project, and then it would be a delay in getting qualified workers back to continue that project once the funding resumed. So Senator Paul definitely understands and would like to work with you. And again, if anyone has any grants coming up in the spring, please let me know. We have a full-time grant person in Louisville that would be happy to work with you and advocate for that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. Moving on to our staff reports. First, we have Miss Amy Froke with our Community and Economic Development.
Before I get into my report, I just want to say it's been brought to my attention that we have a birthday in the room. Mr. Clint from Oak Grove Public Works, today is his birthday. So happy birthday, Clint. 29. Just I want to draw your attention to a couple of items in your packets. You should have in there a list of current funding opportunities. We went over a lot of those in detail last month, so I won't bore you with those details again this month, but I do want to draw your attention to a few programs that were added to that list. The Kentucky Body Armor Grant Program, that is a program that was funded by the General Assembly during last year's session. During the budget session to provide body armor, weapons, ammunition, and body worn cameras to law enforcement and first responders. Their primary emphasis is on that body armor, and those applications are accepted on a rolling basis. We've also provided some additional one-page details on the Delta Regional Authority Community Infrastructure Fund program, which is for your larger water and sewer and gas infrastructure projects. And then also the strategic planning program. Just a reminder on that strategic planning program, the applications for that first round of funding are due on March the 7th. So that's going to be here before we know it. Also, we've added some information regarding upcoming opportunities such as the Community Development Block Grant, Economic Development Administration, and the Delta Regional Authority CDAP program, which is their annual allocation in which Kentucky gets about $1.3 million for Kentucky specific projects. And we'll talk about those in more detail at the April meeting. As Alex mentioned, we had a good run last week with announcements from the governor in the road program and land and water conservation fund, as well as recreational trails projects. There were 50 land and water conservation projects awarded and 8 recreational trails projects. And of those 58 projects, 9 were located in the Pennyroyal region. So I want to commend the community and economic development staff, specifically Brian, Jared, and Jessica for their work on those projects and for getting those funded. And congratulations to all those communities that did receive funding. And now I'm going to ask Brian Jones, Community Development Specialist, to come up and talk a little bit about our revolving loan fund program.
Good afternoon. As she said, I'm Brian Jones, a Community Development Specialist here at PeADD. I also help oversee our revolving loan program. And I just wanted to take a minute to either let you know or to remind you that we have that option here at PeADD. There's a sheet in your packet that outlines the program, and I'll just hit quickly on the first couple of bullet points. First, these projects finance may include manufacturing, service, tourism-related business, or be infrastructure related. Second, to note that this is not a 100% loan from PeADD. We cannot be the primary lender and will require other lender participation. And of course, the main focus for any of these loans is job creation. I'm currently a part of a training cohort right now with EDA from now until the end of May. Our last session was general RLF tactics, and our next in a couple of weeks is on marketing. So I say that to let you know that my plan going forward is to visit with you and your community and some local banks in your area to help promote this program better. If you have any business in your area looking to expand or see any potential new business startups, let them know that we are available and we'll be glad to talk to them. So if you have any questions, please get with Amy or myself and we'll help you out best we can. Thank you.
Hey, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, but we do have in our plan, and I'm looking at more of the infrastructure related needs that cities and counties and utilities can be applicant for those funds as well. So if any of your utilities have the need for infrastructure needs, know that this revolving loan program is available as well.
Thank you, Amy and Brian. Next, we have Ms. Jill Collins with our Area Agency on Aging and Independent Living.
Good afternoon. The first thing I want to bring your attention to in your packet is a handout that looks like this. It has a list of the updates to our area plan. You all approved the area plan back in fiscal year 23, and that runs through the end of this fiscal year. So all we're doing right now is just sending in revisions, which just include updated staff list, budget numbers, and council membership. I will note that we will be conducting a full needs assessment later this calendar year to identify our top 3 needs as we write the new area plan later in the year, which will be a new template, which will fall in line with the Older Americans reauthorization and that final rule once that is released. One of our projects we have active right now is a Share the Love campaign. It's going on internally here at the office. And a way to include the community in that is a pet food donation that we're doing right now to collect pet food for our older adults that are homebound to help them take care of their pets. Had a great response from the community. We've got the back hallway just full of different donations. And so we're going to be providing this to older adults that have pets that need some help taking care of those animals. We're finding that our older adults receive so much benefit from those pets that they have in their home. They provide companionship and emotional support, mental stimulation. There's cognitive benefits to having a pet in your home, the social interaction and connection, just that emotional support, having an animal in their home. And so we are taking donations of pet food and supplies for cats and dogs currently, and those will be distributed throughout the month to those individuals that need help taking care of their pets. And so this is one of our clients here that is going to participate. She's being interviewed by the newspaper today, so there'll be a nice article about it tomorrow in the newspaper. And so she's very proud of her pet, and he provides friendship to her and socialization to her in her home. So if you're interested in helping us out with that, you can let myself or one of my staff know, and we'll be happy to accept a donation to take out to those individuals. The next update I have is regarding the Todd County Senior Center. And I think we may have a couple of photos ready to share. But we've been displaced from our senior center for a few months, almost a year. I think we moved out March, April timeframe last year. And we've been undergoing some renovations. We were able to get back into the building on January the 29th, and that was just a great day. Everyone's excited to be back in. But I wanted to thank Amy Frog and her staff for the grant dollars that they were able to obtain to make this renovation possible. We were able to receive a grant of $750,000 with the match provided by Todd County Fiscal Court. And the overall project cost ended up costing just over $900,000. But the updates are just great. We've got new bathrooms, updated kitchen. The ceiling grids, the lighting in there is just so much better and brighter. And so Mayor Green and Judge Mansfield, they've been a major part of that. And so I think we do have a planned grand reopening with the chamber coming up within the next few weeks for a ribbon cutting. So again, we're just excited to be back in our building and to highlight the collaboration between departments with community and economic development and how that can play a major role in the impact that our senior services have in our communities as well. So if anyone has any questions on any of the updates, let me know. You'll also find in your packet our December service report, which just kind of highlights some of our activity within the department. You can take a look at that as well. And then if you have any questions on that, I'll be happy to answer questions on those as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Jill. Next, we have Ms. Tammy Hyde with our West Kentucky Workforce Board.
Good afternoon. In your package, you'll see a timeline on the West Region planning. Every 4 years, we have to update our regional and local plans. In our region also includes the Green River Area Development District. So we work with the Green River Workforce Board, and we will be having a planning meeting on Friday, February the 14th at 10 a.m. It's a virtual meeting. There's an invite in your packet for that meeting. If you would like to attend and would like a digital copy of the invite, so you can just click on the link instead of trying to type it in. There's information on there how to get that. Just let us know. We'll be glad to send it to you. This meeting is a meeting of our chief local elected officials, our economic development regions, chambers, colleges, community partners, any local official who would like to participate and attend. And what we're doing in this meeting is the state has tasked us each year with the sectors that they provide. And so this year they have re-examined the sectors in our area. Our state sectors will change July 1. So this has to be implemented in our plan, and they will now be healthcare, which was already in our plan. Manufacturing and logistics is now combined. Construction, new to the plan is education, and then as another category called professional, scientific, and technical services. And we'll be going over those and what they mean and how that impacts our local area that covers 17 counties and the Green River area that covers 7 counties. In addition to that, we will also be looking at adding energy and agriculture for 2 local sectors for our area. Because in our assessments that we have done and what the state has compiled and sent to us, those are 2 of the higher targeted areas for us to be able to serve people and to be able to place people into jobs in our local area. So we want to be very mindful of that whenever we are serving our area, to make sure that we are putting people where they need to be and what works for best for our area, and not just what's statewide as a whole. We plan to post the plan after Friday. It'll be posted digitally on our website so that you can review it as we update it. If you have any comments or suggestions that you would like to make, we'll have a place for that, or a place for you to send it to. We welcome and encourage that. We encourage you to participate on Friday if you can at all, so that we can, start this process and get things into place. And then it has to be open for a 30-day comment public review period, and that will begin no later than April 1. If we can get it out before then, we will, but if not, it will start April 1 and go through April 30th, because it is due to the state at the end of April. So that's kind of our timeline, and there's a little timeline in your packet as well that goes along with that. We also want to continue to thank our state legislatures for the funding that we've received to be able to serve our 18 to 24-year-old young adult population. Right now, we have about 36 people in our program, and they are either in on-the-job training contracts or short-term training. The goal of this funding is to put people into better jobs or put them into jobs where they may not have had jobs. And so far, we are being successful in doing that. We've had 5 or 6 people to exit our program. They are employed, and their average wage is around $20 at the point of their exit. So we are very thankful and excited that the state legislatures have given us that opportunity for that funding, and hope that it continues for us. And we can continue to serve the individuals in our local area. If you know of 18 to 24-year-olds that are unemployed or underemployed that could benefit from them, please refer them to our local career centers. We have one in Hopkinsville, one in Paducah, and one in Madisonville, and we are glad to talk with them and serve them in any way that we can. Also in your packet, you have a flyer on an expungement event that will be held on February the 27th. We are partnering with Hopkinsville Community College. The event will be at their Emerging Technology Center. It is free of charge. So if you know of any individuals who have a record that is in the process of trying to get it expunged or needs assistance with that, please refer them to this program. I think they will benefit from coming out that day, and then we'll have attorneys on site that can talk with them and help guide them in what their next steps might be that they need to take. Also in your packet, we have a flyer on the Job Expo in Madisonville. It'll be in April. We wanted to bring this to your attention now. If you have any employers in your area that would be interested in participating, there's a QR code. They can scan that and register on the QR code. We will also be having Christian County Public Schools will have their annual Job Fest on April the 24th at the Sportsplex. This is for Christian Todd and Trigg County High School students that plan to go straight into work after they graduate from school. These are students who have said, we're not interested in going into training. We're tired of going to school. We want to give back to our community now, so we want to go to work. So this is an opportunity for them to be able to meet employers, talk with them, talk about what job openings that might look like for them, what their skill set is, or what they might need to do over the next few weeks to be able to get them up so that they can get hired. In lots of instances, employers are making job offers on site. We want you to come work for us the day after you graduate. you can come before then, that's great. We'll work with you, but if not, the day after you graduate, we want you to come. Trigg County Schools does something similar on a smaller scale. It's specific to their school system. It'll be on April the 30th. That morning is for juniors and high school, juniors and seniors of the high school. They have employers there on site and resources available to them to give them an idea of what might be out there for them that they might not have thought about. And then that afternoon, they open it up to the community for anybody in the surrounding counties to come. And if there are job openings that are available, then they're more than happy to fill them, and they fill lots of their jobs on site as well. They have interview spaces and that type of thing also. And then the last thing I have, we have a West Kentucky Workforce Board meeting will be on Thursday, March the 27th at 10 a.m. It'll be in this room, or there is a virtual option. If that is easier or more convenient for you, we'll be glad to send that out to you. Just let us know. And more information will be coming on that soon, as we won't have a meeting in March. We wanted to make sure that we brought this to your attention before. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Moving on to new business and our monthly code of ethics report. We have no issues to report. And next, I would like to introduce Dr. Brian Card, Dean of Agriculture at Murray State University, to come up.
Well, you're too kind. Thank you. And it is a pleasure to get to be back here today and to share with you some updates on the progress, and it is progress toward establishing a College of Veterinary Medicine at Murray State. And I want to start by saying thank you to this group for the support that you have shown thus far and continue to show. Last session, we had great support from this group as a whole and many of you individually with your respective organizations concerning this proposal. And just give you a little bit of a quick recap over how we finished last legislative session. You know, we went in and we're so thankful that the House was really our friend, Representative Thomas. They were really our friend. And so we saw the bill be presented and voted on the House side and passed by about 84-4 or something like that. And you couldn't ask for much better support than that. And then it kind of stalled out on the Senate side, and it went to the Education Committee on the Senate side. And as you remember, we ended up with a Senate Joint Resolution 170, where there were several proposals that involved regional comprehensive institutions offering advanced graduate degrees that they are currently prohibited to offer via Kentucky statute. And so, you know, first thing, when I say that in some groups, they say, are you kidding? It's against the law? Yeah, still against the law. It's against the law last year and it's still against the law this year. And so that's really what that bill, House Bill 400 last year, was to amend that statute to allow Murray State to offer a doctorate of veterinary medicine. And so the Senate came together and developed Joint Resolution 170, where they asked the Council on Post-Secondary Education to do another feasibility study with all of these programs. And of course, we had Eastern Kentucky University wanting to establish a doctorate of osteopathic medicine, Western Kentucky University wanting to expand PhD programs and become a Research 2 focused institution. And of course, our vet school, and then Kentucky State had proposed a PhD in agroecology. And so they asked the CPE to do a study to see if these programs were feasible. And they gave them a pretty short timeline. They had to report back to the committee by December 1st. And this was at the end of the session last year. And so that happened. Deloitte was the firm that was chosen to carry out these feasibility studies. So we met with them several times in the meantime and gave them all the information that they requested. And then, of course, they did report back to the Education Committee on the Senate side, the Agriculture Committee on the House side with their results. And by and large, their results were very positive. Everything that they came back with said, yes, this is possible, and we believe that it'll work. Now, we have some vocal opposition that'll pick apart pieces of that study that I'll be happy to explain if you have questions about, and clear up any misunderstandings that may or may not be intentionally spread. And so that study came back, everything looked positive, and so we're going into this session. We have House Bill 153 that Mary Beth Imes introduced, and of course Representative Walker's co-sponsor on that bill here, and Representative and now Chairman Dossett, the Agriculture Committee, of course, from your area here is in full support. And we thank these folks for their support. It's a wonderful, wonderful support that we continue to see. There are actually two Senate bills now, Senate Bill 113 that Jason Howell has proposed, and then the other one, I don't remember the number, but Danny Carroll had brought it out. And so there are two Senate bills, and I'm not a politician, truth be known, so I didn't have any idea how this stuff worked before about a year and a half ago, Walker. And so I've got a great education from my friends and some from people that may not be my friends, but I got a great education nonetheless. So learning more and more. But there are two Senate bills that we hope both of those are one, at least from the Senate side, and then from the House side will move forward. I don't know, once again, but it does appear that all of these other institutions looking to offer these degrees. I mean, as a dean at Murray State, I have no reason to oppose any of those other degree programs or what they want to do as a university to try to serve the students of our state and of their region. So I think if from my opinion, if all these go together so that everybody gets what they need and what they want, then that's perfectly fine with me. But once again, I have no idea how this stuff works. We're seeing a lot of good support. I know Renee Shaw on KET has done two segments that I'm aware of in the last few weeks that focus on the vet school. An initial segment where she had representation from Republican Party as well as the Democrat Party on her show, and all four representatives there, all four people there, two senators and two congressmen that were very much in support of the vet school. And so great bipartisan support that we see here moving forward. And then last week she had President Jackson on to interview him about this process and how it's going. So if you get a chance to look back, those are recorded on KET's website. Really good information full of lots of details. And so we're thankful for that continued support. We are seeing more support and in some pretty key areas. Farm Bureau met for their annual meeting back in December, and in the resolutions committee, it was put forward to support this initiative for a vet school as well as the other graduate degree programs that I mentioned before at the other comprehensive institutions. And so our statewide agricultural advocacy group in Farm Bureau has a supportive stance of what we're doing. The other one, as recently as about a week and a half ago, the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and Commissioner Jonathan Schell provided a letter of full support for the veterinary school. And that was a big win there in seeing him come on board publicly. I mean, he had been supportive. There's no doubt he had been supportive in the past to kind of get that cemented in a letter of support, and you'll see that be made public maybe even this week. And so it's great to see this support continue. The opposition obviously continues, and to my knowledge, we have one organized group of opposition, and that's the Kentucky Vet Med Association. And so you may see a lot of Facebook or social media posts from that group. And while you see statements on there, questions that we have failed to answer, I'm happy to answer them again at any time. We've answered all those questions multiple times over and over. And so I just thought maybe I would throw out a few things here today that you may hear brought up as you do hear some opposition. And number one is they've always been hung up on this distributed model of education. And it is not the traditional model, but while you may see a report of only 3 of the 30 fully accredited veterinary schools are under this model, really that's a function of where we're at on a timeline. Every vet school that has been built in the last 20 years has been on this model, but it takes about 5, 6, 7 years to go through the full accreditation process. And so if we have that statement a year from now, I expect there'll be 6 of the 36 that are on that list. And then the next year, there'll be 9 of the 39 that are on that list, because each of those that are going through that accreditation process are in this distributed model. And so there are about a dozen of those in various levels of accreditation. And so that statement, the time limit on that statement is pretty short before it becomes really a misleading statement, as I really believe it is today. And so we're seeing many of these more come online, and it is a newer model that involves the clinical placement of students in the 4th year of their vet school education. And really, it's happening all over our state. I dare say, and I know some veterinarians in this area, but if you go into their office, you'll meet veterinary students from Lincoln Memorial. They'll be in offices right here in this county. You'll meet veterinary students even from some that have traditional teaching animal hospitals, but they're here doing clinical rotations, because not only is this the model for veterinary education, it's also the model that the traditional schools with the teaching hospitals have begun to use in the last 10 years or so in order to get that clinical experience for their students to go out and do these rotations. And so once again, it's a bit of a misleading statement to say that this is something new and untested. It's certainly tested and has worked very well for many years. Financial side of this, so Deloitte came in and did an analysis of what we had proposed as an institution to be able to sustain a college of veterinary medicine financially and otherwise. And so financially, what they had developed, and I don't know, Deloitte, is this big consulting firm. They're not specialists in veterinary medicine. They're specialists in doing studies. And so they came and did this study. And of course, they're charged with coming up with all these different levels of success of how things could go right or how things could go wrong. And as we have proposed, with a class size of 70 students, this thing is designed to be self-sustaining financially. It's designed to be self-sustaining, to pay for itself on tuition, and tuition, which I might add, would be very near the lowest in the country. And so whenever we have a student that gets into Auburn, we have those 38 contracted seats with Auburn University, and we have 3 with Tuskegee. But when they get into one of those 38 seats at Auburn, they can count on paying roughly $25,000 a year in tuition. And that's a pretty good deal. There's no doubt that that's a good deal on vet school tuition. But we have more than 38 students from the Commonwealth of Kentucky that would like to be a veterinarian and have the ability to become a veterinarian. And so when we send the other students out to other places, and right now we have somewhere around 60 students in other schools of veterinary medicine other than Auburn University. And so whenever a student is, I say, forced to take a slot in another university, that average yearly cost goes to about $50,000 a year. And so we go from $25,000 at Auburn to $50,000 whenever we're paying out-of-state tuition if they go to Missouri, if they go to Mississippi. Mississippi is a little more reasonable, but it's still high 40s. You go to these different states, and then there's another layer to this where many of our students find themselves in a private vet school, and it doubles again. It's nearly $100,000 a year that these schools are charging our students. And so, and even Lincoln Memorial, which we've worked with very well in this state and is almost in this state, their tuition is extremely high. But we have students that are coming out of universities that are offshore, that are coming to the U.S. for their AVMA accreditation and some of their clinical rotations for their students that are graduating with nearly $500,000 in debt. And so that tuition level that we propose is a part of the program to try to help these students be able to survive as rural mixed practice veterinarians, because it's no doubt there is a difference in earning potential in the small animal versus the large animal and the farm animal. And so we realize that. And so we're trying our best to make it affordable, but even at that level, at a 70 student per class, it pencils out. But what Deloitte did said, okay, if you can't fill 70 seats, let's say you can only fill 35 seats, then you won't make enough money to support the school. Okay, well, that's reasonable. But in what universe would we not be able to fill 70 seats in a school of veterinary medicine when we have 10,000 applicants nationwide? And so as a matter of fact, we are committed to the students of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. But financially, our best bet would be just open this up all seats and jack the tuition to 60 grand a year and we make a bunch of money. And so this thing failing financially is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. But that's, don't hear me wrong, that's not what's going to happen. We're focusing on the students of Kentucky and providing an affordable vet medicine education here. That's what we're committed to do. But I just say that to say the idea that this would be criticized as not being financially viable is just absolutely a non-starter. And as I mentioned before, you know, we've had folks from the veterinary community say that those students going out in clinical placements are a strain on the veterinarians, and it does require cooperation from those veterinarians. But as I mentioned before, they're currently doing it already. We have veterinarians that are hosting students from multiple states right now, right here in this area. And I guess to be a little bit selfish there, Jason, I'd say if we have to turn away from some students from Alabama to house Kentucky students in our Kentucky vet practices, then I'm all for that one. That's okay. If we have to turn away students that have been coming here from Mississippi State, that's okay. And even in this model, it is designed to pay those veterinarians to be instructors in this program to allow students to go into their practices. And I thought it was a very interesting point in the questionnaire that was sent out to veterinarians across the state. Deloitte, first of all, predicted that we need about 200 veterinarians to participate as clinical placements. And I think that is a very safe number. It's a very big number. And I think that we don't need quite that many. But even at that, we had 400 people-ish respond to the survey, or they did, KVMA, 400 of their members, and there's about 1,600 licensed veterinarians in the state. 400 of them responded. Out of the 400, nearly 200 said they would be willing to be a clinical site for our students. And so if 200 out of 400 say they would be willing to, I think we've got plenty when we look at 1,600 veterinarians in the state. And so I think, once again, some of the arguments, some of the criticism are distractions from the real opposition. And I understand some of the opposition is the competition and the job market that it could potentially create by producing 70 new veterinarians in the state each year. But we have a shortage of rural veterinarians in the state. And if you look at that map that we posted just a couple of weeks ago, most of the state fits in this underserved vet medicine categories. And so I've said all along, you know, if we turn out 70 vets a year, they can't all run to Louisville and practice. Somebody's going to have to go to these rural areas in order to use their degree and feed their family. And so we create this situation where now no longer do you choose to set up shop and only treat small animals for the most profit. And I think it's much healthier for vet medicine care as a producer and as an animal owner. And so I think that there are a lot of reasons why this thing still has a lot of potential. I'm extremely hopeful that we'll end this short session just in a few weeks, right, Walker? We'll end at the end of March, right? And so by the end of March, I think we'll know whether we'll see this statute amended. And I should mention also, last session, we were given $60 million, a $60 million appropriation to build a building with. And until we get the approval to call it a vet school, then we can't exactly say it's for a vet school. But I met with the architects last week, met with them weekly for the last 3 weeks, and they are designing this building to be a vet school at Murray State University. That plan has not deviated whatsoever. And so that is what the architects are carrying out. We've got 10 million in the first year of the biennium, 50 million in the second year. And we're hopeful by the time we get to that point, we'll be housing a pre-vet, vet tech and vet school in this larger facility that we've proposed. And so very thankful for that support financially. And once again, we're moving forward as if we are going to establish a College of Veterinary Medicine at Murray State. I'd be happy to take any questions that anybody has today. If any of that didn't make any sense, I'd have to clear it up. If you have really hard questions, I'll let Arthur Green answer them. Yes, ma'am.
What has been the feedback from the equestrian industry? Have they been supportive of it overall?
Yeah, overall that they have. And so we have, although I say yes, we've been involved with a certain number of racehorse owners in the Lexington area. Jack Wolf, that's had a couple of Kentucky Derby and Triple Crown horses. Event has been very supportive and has actually testified on our behalf there in Frankfurt. And so, yeah, I think that, they realize that there's a shortage in to a large extent, if I were picking out people in the animal industry that really should be concerned, of course, equine is there. Dairy is definitely at the top of the list of people that should be concerned, and they've been on board. We've had the pork producers on board and the poultry producers as well. But we're having, and the cattlemen have to walk a fine line, because they walk a fine line where they walk hand in hand with the KVMA. And I understand, and that's been a little bit of I have some very, very supportive local cattlemen associations that have written a letter, but at the state level, they've been a little bit shy to sign on in the face of their veterinary friends. Any other questions?
So what do we need to do?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Keep letting Representative Thomas know that you're behind him. That's a great point. I mean, there are, for the most part, you folks and the entities that you represent have been very supportive, but there are some members of the General Assembly that represent some of you folks that have not signed on to support. And so please contact your representative and your senator and ask them to sign on to support. I mean, we've got some that are great champions like Myron and Walker, but we've got some others that have been a little bit standoffish that represent people in this room. And so contact them and let them know. Yes, sir.
You were talking about Eastern Kentucky University and Western Kentucky University as part of this joint resolution. And I was just curious, I don't want to go speculation, but there is speculation that in the Golden Triangle, there's a bit of a rebuke as well, particularly with the University of Kentucky. How do you bring them to the table and maybe smooth this over as this tries to go through Frankfurt?
Yeah, and so I don't know. There's a lot of things that are stated and a lot of things that are not stated and maybe not even admitted to. I don't know if that's fair to say. But the public position of the University of Kentucky has been that they're neutral on this proposition, this proposal. And really that's all we have to go from. I think, and if I'm not careful, I'll start saying things what I think instead of what I know. But I hear this enough from my friends that are University of Kentucky alumni that they wish that the University of Kentucky would do this, but they haven't. They haven't. The fact remains that they haven't, and they have no plans to do it. And so once again, unless we're just standing in opposition to this Murray State doing this just for the chance in case UK ever decides to, then I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it, but I will say officially and publicly, and as far as I know, I mean, I don't have any colleagues at the University of Kentucky that I think are actively working against this. I think it's, if anything, it may be an alumni base that would rather see them do this, that just happens. But yeah, I think as far as collaboration. I mean, we're wide open to collaboration. We've collaborated with the University of Kentucky for forever on the agronomy side. I mean, we have tobacco trials there on the West Farm. We have soybean, wheat trials there that are in conjunction with the UK scientists that are in Princeton that come back and forth to our campus. I mean, you run over here to the extension office and most of the UK employees are Murray State graduates. And that's the case in most of our counties here in Western Kentucky. And we're proud of that. We're glad to be good partners with the University of Kentucky. Sure thing. Anyone else? All right. Well, thanks once again for letting me be here. And I guess I'll see you on Thursday. Many of you in Frankfurt on Thursday. And if you want to catch me anytime between now and then and say, hey, I'd like to have some other talking points there, I can go catch my General Assembly member and tell them how much we appreciate their support for this. And I'd be happy to help you out. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, Dr. Parr. And when I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, I said, you know, I thought it'd be appropriate for you to be here, especially today, knowing that a lot of our group would be in Frankfurt later this week. But something I may add, you know, we are home here in Christian County and Hopkinsville to the BVC, the Breathitt Veterinary Center. And I know, you know, I have the honor of sitting on the task force for the vet school, along with a few others in this room. But I know that the BVC will be positively impacted by this as well. So I think that just gives us another reason here in this room to be supportive of this initiative. So
that's right. Every vet school student will make a rotation, a 5 to 6 week rotation through the BBC here in Austin.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That it was great to see Commissioner Shell be supportive of that. So thank you for being here today. And speaking of Frankfurt, I know that a lot of you all again will be joining us in Frankfurt later this week with the KCO reception on Wednesday night, the Ad District luncheon on Thursday, and then West Kentucky Thank You Night Thursday evening. If you are going to be in the Capitol Thursday around lunchtime, I have tickets. We will be sponsoring a lunch between 11:30 and 1 p.m. So if you're in the Capitol meeting with your legislators, see me. If you plan to be there, see me, and I can give you a ticket for lunch there that morning. I'll also be there in the cafeteria. So if you don't grab one today, just see me then. So the Kentucky Council, Judge Humphreys and Mayor Cotton, you all are meeting at 10:30. I know you'd asked me this morning. That meeting is at 10:30 there in the Capitol. Anybody that wants to join us for that meeting at 10:30, you're welcome to do that as well. So if you are meeting with your legislators on that day, we would just ask for you to thank them for their continued support of the ad districts. We don't necessarily have legislation that is going before the legislators this time, specifically related to the ads, but we always want to thank them for their continued support. You know, as we have been talking about higher education, we're honored today to have a couple of our community college presidents in the room today. I feel very lucky to have both of you all here. Is there anything, as we're going to Frankfurt later this week, is there anything you'd like for us to talk about with the community colleges? Anything you want to add? I'm going to open the mic. I hate to put you on the spot, but
well, you know, one of the things that's going on with community colleges right now, I don't know how many of you heard about last session, Senate Bill 179. And we were asked to basically review ourselves and take a plan to the legislature for what our system should look like. And we were tasked with deciding or making an argument whether we should just be one college for the whole state, or if we needed to keep our individual status or individual accreditations to be closer to our communities. There were several things in there about our governance, about our funding, And there is gonna be a bill drop. I'm not sure when. We thought it would be last Friday. But as far as I know, it has not dropped yet. In response to all of that, so we don't know what the number of that bill is, but that's gonna be there. Now I'm speaking only for Madisonville now. For Madisonville, we started a flight program. And we have had to stop enrollment because we do not have enough help with helicopters and airplanes. We have students on waiting lists now. We're still really pushing that we need equipment for that program. We fully funded it through our college and through some support from some grants that actually PeADD helped us with, but also through private support through some foundations. But we're at a point now where if we wanted to expand to continue to help the economic growth of our region, we need more equipment. And so we're going to be looking for that. So those are the couple big things from us personally in Madisonville, also from the system.
Just echo all of that. The challenge for many of us is capacity. And as we look at the programs that, the high demand, the healthcare, the logistics, construction, education, all of those, we have those programs. We just need additional capacity in order to help get our citizens to work. So any assistance that we can get in increasing capacity as far as faculty personnel, and in some cases equipment, and in some cases maybe some space, not necessarily advocating for new buildings, but just some creative kinds of ways to partner with other people to help us increase the capacity and get more individuals into these sectors. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, well, thank you all for being here today. You are such a vital part of our region. Judge Humphreys?
Well, I just would like to comment on what you were speaking on with the possible realignment with community colleges. And I know last year, a lot of kind of caught flat-footed on the idea or notion that we were going to have some changes that we were not receptive to. So the idea that you have not been informed about the possible bill drop and what's in that is of some concern, I think, to all of us. And we should be very well versed on what this bill looks like when it does come out as to what it shapes our communities like. We have a lot of vested interest, a lot of communities who have a lot of support locally, and to have Frankfurt take it upon themselves to make wholesale changes without our input is disconcerting.
Well, and that's part of the reason you didn't see us here a lot last fall, is because we spent the entire fall doing research studies so we could have input. And with the help of our president, Dr. Ryan Quarles, there's been a lot of input in into the whole process, and he's had a lot of input into the bill. And we feel like we know what's going into it. We feel fairly comfortable with it, at least from our perspective of trying to serve our communities and help grow our communities. So it's just, you don't know what it's going to look like until it's actually, it actually drops. So
those bills can change a lot.
They can change, and that's right. So, as soon as, and I know that Walker's aware of it, all of our representatives are aware of it. We've made them very aware. And we'll let all the entities know what that bill number is so it can be watched once it does drop.
Any other questions? All right, one more legislative item on today's agenda, and I would like to ask Tim Thomas to make his way, if you're planning on speaking about this. In your packet and emailed out to you all last week is a copy of a resolution supporting PREA, the Pennyrile Regional Energy Agency, and the development of the Pennyrile Energy Corridor. This organization has continued to support that project since it has been on the radar screen. If you remember, just a few months ago, we had the chairman of that group, Eston Glover, come over and speak to our board, but they are looking at making an additional push at the federal level. And so Tim's here to talk a little bit about the resolution that you find in your packet.
Thank you, Jason. and you all have heard of this project before, but it is now under a new name. The board at its January meeting decided that there may be some misconceptions about the project. Obviously, it is a pipeline project, a natural gas pipeline project from the Lamasco area in Lyon County, running along I-24 to the Tennessee state line and then turning eastward and ending in Guthrie. We decided that there was perhaps some idea that all the benefits of the pipeline would be at that terminal end in the Guthrie area. And so it was decided by the board that they would rechristen the pipeline the PeADD Energy Corridor to better reflect that this pipeline would open up development to the entire region along its full 53-mile length. Once built, it will be open to any off-taker that wants to locate along that line. Currently, the plan is for a 16-inch line. We may have to up that. We have a lot of interest. We are also in discussions with Fort Campbell, actually contract negotiations. Fort Campbell is interested in a spur off that line to give it a redundant or backup natural gas connection. It currently has a connection coming from the south through Tennessee. It would like to have a backup or secondary connection from the north, which the PeADD Energy Corridor could supply once built. The estimated cost of the corridor is somewhere in the $120 to $150 million range. The state of Kentucky gave us a strong kickoff about 3 years ago when they appropriated a line item appropriation for $30 million. That is what is funding the agency at this point. That is what is being used for acquisition of easement, for preliminary design, environmental studies, and all the things that are incumbent to do before you actually can begin construction. With the change of administration in Washington, we believe the timing is right to approach the new administration for possible federal assistance. We know the new Secretary of Energy comes from a natural gas pipeline background. They understand natural gas. They understand the need for additional pipelines in the country. They understand that we have areas in the country as well as here regionally that are both unserved and underserved. The goal of this pipeline is to attract heavy industry. Heavy industry is good, high-paying jobs. That is the purpose of this pipeline. So that's why you have a resolution in your packet. We wanted to make clear to folks that the corridor is actually a regional project that will benefit at a minimum all 5 counties that it passes through, and we think the spinoff benefits will have impacts beyond that. So that's why the PREA board has come back to you to ask you to approve this resolution in support of the PeADD Energy Corridor. Glad to take any questions you might have. Got Judge Mansfield here, always good to have him. He's been involved with this project since the beginning. I'm a relative newcomer. I hope I've done okay, Judge.
I'll go ahead and move that we support this bill. Resolution.
Okay. All right. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right. Anything else, Tim?
That's it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All right, last thing on my notes is that you were emailed a copy of our Title VI plan. This is something that you all have to review and approve each year. That was emailed to you last week. There's also a couple of those floating around on the tables as well. Madam Chair, if there are not any questions or concerns about that, we will need to approve that Title VI plan.
We approve.
Thank you, Mayor. Second, all right, Amanda, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, just a reminder, next month we will not meet as many of us will be in DC at this time next month. So we will resume our normal meeting schedule in. Are there any questions for me before we adjourn? All right, thank you all for support and look forward to seeing you real soon.
All right, we need a motion to adjourn. Thank you. All right, motion carries. Thank you.
How are you?
It's gonna be good.